Welcome to today's Listen.Better podcast. BJ Cunningham, delighted to be speaking to you, and so thanks for making the time. I see you, and many others do, see you as a charismatic speaker. You've done the international circuit for many years, a serial entrepreneur, and a noted and acknowledged thought leader in the field of brand. But today, I would love to just get behind who BJ Cunningham really is and what makes you tick. So first question, can you just give me a sense of what life events or life moments have had the biggest influence in your life to date?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for giving me the time and for being interested. So thank you very much. And in terms of life influences, it's really been my failures that have given me my greatest lessons, and they have been the things I love to talk about, and they are the greatest teachers for me in terms of my journey. So what I've always done is approach life with this kind of optimism and this I can do it story, which often is the case, but generally ends up in some kind of catastrophic slow motion car crash. In those moments, what I found is the great lessons for me. That's where I've improved through the pain and through the intricate learnings and stories. I found myself becoming a better man, and that's also what I tend to talk about most. I'm deeply bored of going to conferences and hearing about how fantastic someone is. That just doesn't interest me. What I'm really interested in is when I hear about somebody's failure, because in that failure, there's a lesson for me. We are all failures. That's my view. And it's just sometimes people get a little bit lucky. And on that little bit lucky ride, you can pretend you're a success. But at the end of the day, never forget, memento mori. You are a failure, and that's my learning. It's that willingness to embrace failure that's given me the energy to succeed.
I think that's really interesting. And when you say the word failure, I think often people couple that with the word fear. I suppose the fear of failure can paralyze or prevent people from taking that leap. So what do fear and, I guess conversely the opposite, love mean to you?
Well, you're spot on. The opposite of fear, in my view, is not courage. The opposite of fear is love. In fact, fear is the absence of love, just as love is the absence of fear. So embracing life in love, being completely willing to throw yourself at the mercy of the universe and allow her to wash you up on a beach of your choosing, is the best way forward. She will always deliver. In fact, this is we talked about failure earlier. I learned this: you can't actually fail, and the proof of that is we are here now. I mean, there is no failure. There is only experience, and it's all a question of how one measures success. If one measures success by money, by cash, by the amount of numbers in one's bank account, then you can say this person's a success, that person's a failure. I tend not to. I look at it by way of experience. If you're rich in experience, if you're deep in learning, if you're humble and willing to move forward with all of that on top of you, fearlessly in love, knowing you can't fail and recognizing any outcome is a good outcome, because be it success in terms of cash or be it failure in terms of cash, there'll always be some experience from which you can learn.
Very timely. Do you think that's shifted and more people are coming to that realization post-pandemic?
I think the pandemic really was a reboot, certainly for me, that we were lost in that world of spending money we didn't have on things we didn't need to make an impression that wouldn't last on people we didn't care about. That whole paradigm has shifted, and I think that idea of now being at home, where the four walls of the office have become the four sides of the screen, and being able to communicate remotely like this, and all of those, and being on one's own, recognizing the solitary nature of life, while of course being part of a wider community and seeing that community actively involved, not only in terms of social media, but also in terms of direct meetings. It's been an awakening, and I relish the future that's coming out of this. I don't like to call it a new normal because, like I said, normal sucked. So this is about finding a new way, a new path that really allows us to embrace our love. And I think there's a huge opportunity there. Yes, there have been huge problems that have come through the pandemic, massive cash flow, structural business problems. Those problems they've just been compounded by time. They've been compressed, and they've also been compounded by supply chain. You know, there's just a massive problem now in terms of delivery. So there are many learnings that have come through it. I'm actually optimistic about the future. I think the pandemic, but also there's a practical side of it. You know, are you jabbed? I can say I am Jabba the Hutt. I'm quadruple jabbed. I think it's smart to wear a mask. I think it's smart to take a vaccine if you can. These are just sensible things to do. If you've got the opportunity, embrace it. I think on a business side, yes, it's been an incredibly stressful, deeply worrying time. 30-day invoices have become 180-day invoices. Cash has been stretched, and at the same time, there's masses of cash that's been injected into the market. So it's unstable. No one knows what's going on. Everyone pretends they know what's going on. They don't. But it's a huge opportunity. The antidote is in the venom. And if you look at the venom at the moment that's been delivered by the pandemic in terms of business paradigm, in terms of social paradigm, there is a huge opportunity that's embedded right there in it.
Gosh, that's a lot to take on.
That's a lot. I'm really sorry. That was a big answer to a very succinct question.
I'm loving your words, but it's making me wonder, do you feel that your personal purpose, and if you can articulate your purpose at all, has again shifted from 18 months ago, let's say?
Yeah, I realize that it's so interesting. I do a lot of consultancy work on brand with large organizations internationally, as well as smaller startups. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I very sagely gave my advice to my clients, which was, this isn't going to be a short-term thing. This is going to be 12 months, a year, 2 years, maybe, you know. And I said, now is the time of resilience. Resilience is the word. So in terms of resilience and staying strong and survival, cut everything that doesn't actively drive direct sales. Cut all spend. Just cut. Cut me. I said, cut me. You know, I'm an excess you don't actually really need. I'm really useful, but you know, and sadly they all took my advice. So it was a difficult time at the beginning of that whole the whole story. I think that I think that's a word to really bed in: resilience. I think that word is gonna continue. The things we used to rely on have moved, they've shifted fundamentally. And I think we just need to say smart.
Okay, so that cut in your personal consultancy work, did that lead to revisiting the Death cigarette brand? I know many people will be.
Oh yeah, no, I've got to say,
fondly.
oh God, sorry, I didn't actually even answer your question.
You did, I was going to come back to it.
Okay, I was going to say this. Yeah, during the pandemic, my consultancy stopped. Okay, you know, as I say, they took my advice. And I realized then that where consultancy generates cash today, business generates jam tomorrow. So I realized that my businesses were bubbling along under the surface, but they weren't really creating the momentum that I wanted to see. So I refocused on digitalization and really getting my businesses to make sure they delivered online, because that certainly is the new paradigm. I mean, I just don't think anyone would argue about that. And I went and looked at an old brand of mine. I love my greatest if you like, vainglorious business was the creation of death cigarettes in the 1990s. This is the honest cigarette. So all cigarettes are death cigarettes. I just happened to put a skull and crossbones on a packet of cigarettes and call it death, and offered 100% money back guarantee. If you don't die, you get your money back. All of these ideas, this straightforward way of talking in this deeply hypocritical and fear-filled industry, the world of tobacco, gave rise to this glorious brand, which was a fantastic marketing story, but sadly a very difficult business adventure because of distribution. I learned a really important lesson. If your product isn't on the shelf for sale, you can't sell it. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but in fact, that's changed. Nowadays, you are on the shelf if you're online. So I started looking at how could I reapply this death brand, which I think is still completely relevant, because today we still live in a world of lies and fear and hypocrisy, and turn it into a protest brand for today. And I've done that through streetwear, and that's launched on www.deathcigarettes.com. And it's been fantastic. The whole Instagram story, the whole building a universe, you can really be involved in it. And I've understood now precision marketing. I talked about it a lot before, but I didn't really understand it. I now really understand it. I understand the value of data. I understand communicating online, how it works. I can understand why Twitter is 180 characters. It's because people just won't listen more than that. You know, they will not read, they will not engage more than that, and they're used to it. So you have to serve things up. You have to serve delicious morsels in bite-sized chunks. You have to deliver. You have to stay fresh and new. You have to shine a tiny light in that algorithmic darkness in order to stay relevant and stay there. And Death Cigarettes has been able to do that. I'm just delighted by it. That's what I've loved coming out of the pandemic, is the ability to focus in on redeveloping and reigniting and reincarnating Death Cigarettes.
I love your passion and that glint in your eye, BJ, as you talk about your business ventures. Turning to the world stage, who or which leaders would you say have inspired you? Who do you think is getting it right?
Well, I've got to say, we are facing a dearth of talent in terms of global leadership. I'm just appalled by the supposed leaders, and they just seem to be egoists pushing their own personal ego brand. And I don't understand. If anything, the best quote I've heard recently is from Greta Thunberg, and it was blah 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 blah, and that is the perfect summary of all global leadership direction at the moment. Pointless, absolutely pointless. I cannot see a point in any of their leadership agendas. Biden, I was full of hope, that lunatic was out of the asylum, and suddenly we had this presidential figure who was going to arrive and lead the world. And I'm just thinking, in fact, we've got a geriatric kind of mumbler who doesn't know quite what's going on, this disgrace in Afghanistan. I mean, I'm searching. I don't see a global leader. I just do not see somebody pushing the right buttons. Why? Those buttons are difficult to push. There is a massive crisis. We've had a massive global crisis, the pandemic. There is a tsunami coming, and we can all see it. And it's called climate change, and no one's dealing with it. And I don't know. I mean, it just makes me feel, when it comes to global leadership we are naked monkeys, and we are being led by naked monkeys. And even though we're highly intelligent, we're able to individually have these conversations, no one's willing on a global level to actually lead those conversations. This G20 environment, God, please, what a load of nonsense. I've heard nothing. I'm afraid I can give you no joy. I literally cannot see a single global leader that I respect and admire. Elon Musk, maybe. But sadly, his agenda is very clearly Tesla. So end of story.
So coming back from world leaders, back to you, BJ, you're an acknowledged brand lead, as we said. What makes a good brand? What advice would you give?
A good brand is a brand that makes and keeps its promise. What is a brand? A brand is a promise. So keeping it simple, keeping it clear, and keeping it true is the answer to all branding. In fact, there are just two questions any brand needs to ask, and that's, what's your point and why should I care? And if you've got the answers to those questions, you've got the DNA of a story, and people are interested in stories and they're loyal to promises, not products, not price points, not logos. A logo is just a symbol that encompasses, that embraces, that takes on board that promise and delivers it consistently to the customer. Brands are promises. Marketing is sales foreplay. A joyous, a good, a perfect brand is a brand that delivers a clear, succinct promise and allows a product to sell at a premium.
I want to wrap up with you now, BJ, and just ask, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self if you could teleport back to that date?
I would go back and I'd say, it's going to be one hell of a good ride, and just enjoy it and recognize the down as well as the up. You know, there is no up without down. There is no left without right. There is no day without night. All of it is good. And be engaged wholly in the all of it. There is no, I'd say invest in Bitcoin. You know, that would be good. But no one's ever come back to me and told me what to do. You know, I would just say, it's okay. You're gonna fail and it's okay. You are guilty and not to blame. You are loved. Love.
That's a great ending. Thank you so much, BJ Cunningham. I really enjoyed chatting to you today, and hope to see you in real life at some point the next few weeks or months.
Bye. Thank you.